Hello.
Hi guys. So we were actually muted, and we are here now. It's Charlotte and Jessica from Aragon Wine Market in Pensacola, Florida.
That's right. We wanted to make sure that we let everybody know, those of you that are joining us from other parts of the world, we're so happy to have you. And we're here in Florida.
That's the new thing now, because we also started a YouTube channel. So if you don't get to watch live with us, we have you can either go to our Facebook page and watch, or you can go to the YouTube video and watch it as well.
Absolutely.
So a little bit about what's going on at Aragon Wine Market. We are still happy to do the virtual wine tastings. We really have enjoyed having everybody participate. It's been really awesome. We're trying to figure out how to incorporate it into our daily routine when things get back to normal.
The new normal.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We know that through May, we'll continue to do the virtual wine tastings, and it's been great because we've been able to connect with people from all over the world, in fact. So winemakers and people that don't necessarily come to Pensacola. So it's kind of neat to be able to.
How amazing is that perspective directly from the winemaker, from the area that the wine is being made, to answer those questions that, while a distributor or a vendor is absolutely, able to answer, it's amazing to hear it from their passionate words and mouth,
Yeah,
so
and
cool.
So I think what we'll do is we've got a couple of winemakers. Oh, I just can't wait to tell you about next week. But we've got a couple of winemakers and things lined up for the month of May. We're going to play June by ear and just kind of see how it goes. Eventually, we'll go back to our regular wine tastings here in store every Thursday night from 5 to 7. But we continue to think that maybe we'll do something similar to this a couple times a month, maybe see how it goes. So that's what's going on. Also going on new at Aragon is that we've got a curbside loading zone out front. We've got some signs out front.
We really respect your time and understand that you are running your errands and picking stuff up while you're doing your list of things on the go, and understand that you might want to call in ahead.
Come in, we'll get it, we'll take it out.
This is what I want, this is what I want to spend, I'm looking for this, can you make me a mixed case? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can do the transaction over the phone and then literally run it out to your car, receipt in hand and a smile, and make sure that you're taken care of, so it's a seamless process and a really easy transaction for you.
And so you'll see the signs out front, and don't think that you can't park there. You can certainly park there if you're just coming in the store and not just using it for curbside.
Yeah.
Also, we have parking in the back,
which I never knew that.
So
please, plenty of parking in the back.
We've got some neighbors. We've got a cafe on one side and we've got a salon on the other, and so we're sharing our parking. So if you don't see any parking out front, feel free to park in the back. There's parking spaces that have parking for Aragon Wine Market in the back. So that's that. And I see that Emerald Coast Tours Wine and Glide is watching. So that's awesome. I guess Nick came in and got a bottle of the wine for tonight. And
that's such a beautiful park to enjoy this, amazing white wine. Especially with the kind of heat and humidity of the day. I'm excited you guys are going to enjoy it with us.
And Yvonne, hi, and Carrie is watching from Hawaii, so we appreciate that.
And we started our own watch parties on our personal Facebook pages. So if you see those, the best thing to do is redirect yourself back to the menu page. So that your comments can be seen in real time, because we're not checking our cell phones right now. So
nope, we started the watch parties so that we get some promo and
Helen.
Yes. Anyway. So that's going to be fun. How this works is that I have told you in advance what wines we're doing. We're doing Henri Bourgeois wines from Sancerre, France. They're both Sauvignon Blancs, but they're oh so different. One is called Petit Bourgeois and the other is Le Baron. Henri Bourgeois is one of the oldest wineries and well-known and most well-respected in Sancerre. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk to Michael Fix, who is our wine rep, local wine rep, much loved, beloved wine rep.
Well known.
And Laurent Nobel, who is the Henri Bourgeois U.S. rep. He's been with the company for a long time and a good friend of the Bourgeois family. So what we'll have you do is open your water bottles, drink along with us. Please ask questions. That's kind of the most important part because this makes it interactive and fun for all of us to do that. So
I think it's good to ask those questions that maybe you're like, is this a silly question? I ask those all the time because I want to grow and learn. And sometimes those silly questions really bring out the best answers that are an epiphany moment in the wine. So
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely ask those.
Yeah, for sure. So Sancerre is near and dear to my heart. I used to actually live there. So I have lots of good friends and family that live there, and it's a beautiful hilltop town in France. The heart of France, Cour de France, which is the heart of France on the Loire. The Romans came through. It's countryside. It's beautiful. It's known for goat cheese, which we actually have some here that we're gonna eat tonight while if we're not talking.
I already had a cracker or two. I'm not gonna lie.
And chateaus, and the Loire goes straight through. Although you'd be surprised, the Loire in Sancerre is pretty. It's a fizzly kind of river right through there. Unfortunately, but you can still get on a kayak and go down it. And of course Sauvignon Blanc. That's what the goat cheese and what grows together goes together. Sauvignon Blanc and goat cheese are the perfect pairing in my opinion. So,
or Chevrolet or something. Yeah, same kind of soft, that same element to me.
So they have Coton de Chevrol, so that is kind of their cheese. And we'll ask Laurent more about it. Henri Bourgeois is, like I said, probably one of the. It's not probably. It is the most well-known winemaking family in Sancerre. They're in Chavignon, which is. You can see Sancerre on the hill. It's a beautiful spot. So without further ado, we're going to pull in Monsieur Fix, our wine rep, and Laurent. Yes, perfect. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Bonjour, bonsoir, hello. And it's good to see. Ça va bien, ça va bien. And it's great to see you, and it's great to see Michel. Monsieur.
That's right.
Thank you guys for joining us. Everybody kind of knows Michael Fix, but Laurent, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? And I know you're from France. What part of France, and how did you become connected with Henri Bourgeois?
Sure. So I'm born and raised in France, although I live here in the great USA today. But I'm from the Loire Valley myself as well. But from the very end of the river, so the mouth, the estuary of the river, which technically ends. In Brittany, the south of Brittany. So that's where I'm from. I've been in the wine business for way too long, for many years now. And when you work in the wine business and you are from the Loire Valley, you sooner or later you are going to meet with the Bourgeois family, which is an iconic producer in the Loire. So I've known them since the early 2000s, and it's been a long time. We used to be competitors, but you know what they say in the US: if you cannot beat them, you join them. So they were looking for someone to help them here in the US. A few years ago, so we started working together. It's been almost 10 years now. So again, born and raised in the Loire Valley.
The Bourgeois, it's a family business, and I think is it 3 or 4 generations of family members, and every one of them, pretty much except for I think the chef, his name escapes me right now, are in the wine business.
Yes, so technically it is the 11th generation that is running the winery. So there has been winemaking for 11 generations, so that's about 300 years. But the modern time, that would be, right after World War II, that's where it started to really develop, and also for people in Sancerre to focus on winemaking, because Sancerre, like most of the wine region in France, until the 1980s, people were not making a living solely out of wine. It was always a different type of farming, little bit of dairy, cheese production, cereals, little bit of cattle, wine. But wine for the longest time was used, to trade, to buy a new tractor, to do those kind of things. So it's really after World War II in France that in many regions, outside of the famous Bordeaux or Champagne, where they were always focusing on winemaking because they were able to make a very good living and out of it, and still to this day. But places like most of the places in the Loire Valley, but also the Rhône Valley, the Languedoc, Alsace, it was always about farmers producing different type of product. But the late Henri Bourgeois, which gives its name to the winery, was in Sancerre one of the pioneers who decided after World War II to, first of all, to stay in Sancerre, not to go, find work in Paris or in big cities around the area, and to replant the vineyards, because most of the vineyards after World War II they were in shambles.
That's what I was just thinking mentally. They must have been destroyed from the war.
Exactly.
So there was a period of really completely rebuilding the structure.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And not just the Second World War II, the first also. What was a terrible thing for many wine region in France, because it took so many men away forever. So there was a big schism in terms of production and farming in France. But again, yes, Henri Bourgeois, one of the pioneers, he stayed in Sancerre. He decided, I'm going to stay here. You call me crazy, but I'm going to replant the vineyard, when no one wanted to do that.
Area, so why would you leave that beautiful area? And every one of his offspring have been in the business, correct?
That is correct. So in Sancerre, there are about 300 different winemakers, wineries, if you want. But Bourgeois was never one of the big families. It's not one of the big names in Sancerre. However, they are the only one who kind of stuck together. So today there's only one Bourgeois producer, and it's Henri Bourgeois, the winery. When in Sancerre, you often see a lot of the same last name. Crochet, Reverdy, Thomas, all those families. They are, the original big families in Sancerre, but over generations and generations, they split between brothers and siblings and cousins and all that. So, which is one way to do it. But the Bourgeois, they were able to work together, and they built their way up. and it's actually a very American success story. They started with very little, and they built their way up. Not only in Sancerre, but as you know, Charlotte, we also have a winery in Marlborough, in New Zealand. So,
well, the Clos Henri. I was going to ask you about Clos Henri, because a lot of people do like New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. Of course, you know, Sancerre is known for Sauvignon Blanc. What else is known for Sauvignon? Marlborough is known for Sauvignon Blanc. Yes. So it seems like a natural transition to open a place there. And how long has Clos Henri been around?
So it's going to be 20 years. 20 years.
Okay.
So
wow.
20 years. Yeah.
That seems.
So it's been an amazing journey. Yes, it's been an amazing journey, and there's only one producer in the world who has vineyards in both Marlborough and Sancerre, the two best places to produce Sauvignon Blanc, and that's the Bourgeois family. So it's very unique, and it's a real blessing.
It is, and I do like the idea, and I think the point you made about the family staying together is quite important, because not only have they maintained that family relationship, and everyone, as far as I know, kind of works at the wine. My good friend is Z Arnaud. Her husband goes and sells the wine. She works in the wine tasting room. I feel like everybody in the family has a job.
Very much so. So there's one exception, Charlotte. Jean-Marc Bourgeois, so the elder brother, when he was growing up as a kid, he was always telling his mom, you know, I don't want to go outside. I don't want to go in the vineyard, you know, during the pruning and during the harvest. It's too cold. It's so hard. So, you know, at some point she said, well, okay, you're going to stay, but you're going to stay and help me in the kitchen. And next thing you know, he became a chef. And although he doesn't work at the winery per se, as you know, Charlotte, he owns the boutique hotel and Michelin-rated restaurant that is in Chavignol, of course, the home village of the Bourgeois. So it's all connected. Yes. And
Chavignol, what is it? The Croton de Chavignol with the tagliatelle.
Yes, that's a good poison. That is a good poison, definitely. And actually, guys, I have some. The famous Croton de Chavignol, the classic pairing with Sancerre, and works great with Sauvignon Blanc as well. So we could share this with you.
Can I ask you a little bit about the Crotons? Because they are specific to Sancerre and Chavignol.
Yes, they are. So it is an appellation cheese. So like the appellation for wine, in France we have many. So what we call appellation d'origine contrôlée, AOC or AOPs. They are, basically they started back in the 1930s. They started with wine as a guarantee of origin, because it was to protect the consumers, to make sure that if they were buying a wine that says Sancerre on the label or Bordeaux on the label, it is guaranteed that it comes from that very specific region. So same goes for the cheese, and there are over 500 cheese appellations in France. So yes,
and I probably could eat them all.
That's definitely a great thing to do. Try to eat your way through France. It's wonderful. I just wanted to let you know, Charlotte, I think I'm able to screen to share my screen. So if you want, I can try and show you some pictures of Sancerre and the Loire Valley, and yeah.
And then I'll ask you about our first wine that we're going to sample is the Petit Bourgeois. So
fantastic.
Show us a little bit of Sancerre though, because yes.
So let me see.
Go ahead and while you're trying that, we'll go ahead and pour us a little of the Petit Bourgeois. So it's not called Sancerre because it's not from exactly Sancerre, the specific area. It's from the general area around Sancerre.
Exactly. So can you see my screen?
I see you.
No, you don't see my screen?
Just you. But that's okay.
Oh, just me. Sorry. So, because I see on the side Laurent's screen. You don't have maybe you need to.
Oh, yes, we do.
Done. We do.
Oh, so awesome. We're learning.
We're learning. We're growing.
So do you see it now?
Yeah.
All right. So this is a view of Chavignol, actually, with Sancerre in the back. So we just here you go. Do you see the full screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Great. So that's again Sancerre in the back here. On the other side, what you see in the distance is actually Pouilly-Fumé, and you have to imagine there's the Loire River running between right here, going north. And just so people can see, have an idea of where Sancerre is, it's super easy to find on the map because it's right in the middle of France, about a 2 hours drive south of Paris, and right midway through the Loire Valley. So the Loire Valley starts in the northern Provence, right here. The first half goes north towards Paris, and then it turns west towards the Atlantic Ocean, and that is where I'm from, right here at the very end of the river.
I don't think our map has not moved yet.
We haven't changed to where you're pointing to, but
it's still the beautiful picture of from Chavignol.
Oh, okay.
It's not on the map yet. We're not showing the map.
So you're not seeing you're just seeing.
Yep.
Oh, there's the map. There we go.
Actually, it's Sancerre, Chablis, and Napa Valley comparison.
Yeah, just to show people that Sancerre is actually pretty small. But if I go back, do you see the?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, that's the France, Sancerre, just about 2 hours of Paris, and midway through the Loire River.
Yeah.
Then this is the little map to show people that Sancerre is a small place, and there's only so much wine produced. And just a couple of pictures all show for people who haven't been to Sancerre yet.
Is that Mont Donnay?
It's Les Monts d'Année, yes.
Yeah. What's that mean? One mountain?
The Dame Mountain, yes. So just a few pictures to show people that Sancerre it's very hilly. It's very steep, so it's hard to work. And that's another picture from the 1950s harvest. You see.
Is Arnaud in there somewhere?
No, but this is the late Henri Bourgeois right here.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, back in the 50s, and this is the family today.
Yes. Okay.
Wonderful.
So, and that's awesome. I think that's an important point to make, that they did keep their family together. Whereas it's confusing for myself when I go to there and you see all these different names that all look the same, Reverdy, Crochet, whatever it may be, but there's only one Bourgeois.
Indeed, only one Bourgeois.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
So, if you want, do you want to talk a little bit?
Yeah.
Actually, if I could ask a question, if Laurent could extrapolate a little bit, just quickly before we go to the wine. We have different inheritance laws in France as well, and that's one of the reasons why I think maybe potentially there's a lot of wineries and wine family names who become hyphenated. And then, of course, sometimes there may not be the opportunity to pass along the winery to a family member, or it might get, I don't want to say part of a dowry, but some sort of aspect of that. Could you maybe just quickly say something about that? I don't know if it's something that is, right in your mind right now, but I think that's the reason why we see a lot of hyphenated names, especially in a lot in Burgundy, of course, but where the plots are smaller and there's maybe a harder opportunity to keep certain plots in certain families. But is that something that you could maybe say real quick?
Definitely. So definitely, it's complicated. In some part of France, you mentioned Burgundy. Although there's a lot of Burgundy wines that are expensive. The wines themselves, but usually the estates are pretty small. So of course, you cannot have all of your children making a living out of that small estate. So it's usually, one of the children wants to take over his parents, and maybe it's one children, maybe it's two, and they share responsibilities. But it's not always the case. Some people that they are not, sometimes just not interested to carry on with the family tradition, and they want to do something else. But also, there is the scenario where just people don't get along, and or people, they have a good relationship, but they don't see wine producing the same way. They don't want to produce the same style of wine, so they split. They do their own things. So it's one way to do it, and but the Bourgeois was more. The motto was more about united, we will be stronger. So that was kind of the approach from the start, and they have been able to carry on for a few generations now, and hopefully for the next ones too.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so what we've been sipping on is the Petit Bourgeois. So I guess this is kind of like an entry level. Sauvignon Blanc is entry level. I don't want to say Sancerre because it's not called Sancerre because it's generally from Chavignol or the general area.
Yes.
Where like many places or many wines in France, if it's not from Champagne, it can't be called Champagne. If it's not from Sancerre, it can't be called Sancerre. So that's pretty much what this is like, maybe a declassified Sancerre.
It's definitely a lot of people call this a baby Sancerre, and Jean-Christophe Bourgeois. I'll go back to the picture that this. Can you see?
There you go.
Yeah, so that's Jean-Christophe right here. So he's the head winemaker, and he's a strong believer that any winery should always be judged by the entry level, by the least expensive wine. So for us, Petit Bourgeois, we put a lot of work into it. But the difference between Petit Bourgeois and the Sancerre, for instance, the Sancerre Les Barons, which is the one we're going to taste tonight, it's about geography. It's about where the wine comes from. So Petit Bourgeois, it's a regional Loire Valley wine. So technically, it can be produced everywhere in the Loire Valley. Everywhere where my cursor is going. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the Petit Bourgeois could be technically produced anywhere in this stretch of the Loire Valley that goes, the map is about 300 miles long.
I was going to say that's quite a large amount of space that you can source grapes from.
Right.
Very much so. It's a long, very diverse wine region, and it's pretty big as well. So that's where we start in terms of quality of wine. It's the regional level. So this is a wine from the Loire Valley, but it can be from anywhere in the Loire. However, for us, we source the wine just outside of Sancerre. That's where it started, and also around what we call the Touraine area. So that's where the fruit, the grapes come from, and then we make the wine, let's say, in, again, this baby style of Sancerre. But then that's where the concept of appellation kicks in. The next level, if you are calling your wine Sancerre, then it can only come from this little blue spot here.
Right.
So that's the difference. One of first of all, the origin of the grapes.
But even then, if you just have it in that one little area of Sancerre, and we can touch on this with the Le Baron, the next one we do, there's still so much variety in that tiny little area.
Yes.
Right? From soil and...
Definitely.
Yeah.
So if we zoom in, you can see, can you see this map, the Sancerre and Pouilly-Fumé?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we zoom in, then we get just the area of Sancerre, and what makes Sancerre very unique is a combination of things. So first, the climate of the Loire Valley, but also the microclimate that you have because of the river, because of those different forests to the south and to the north of the appellation, and also because of the nature of the soils that you find in this small area of France. And that's the next slide here, because there is an old saying in Sancerre that goes, all the Sancerre are Sauvignon Blanc, but all the Sauvignon Blanc are not Sancerre. And it's very true. You know? And why? Because of, again, the climate, the microclimate, all those different types of soils and rocks that you find, but also the different exposure. You know, we saw on the pictures that it's all about hillsides. So hillsides, it's a pain to work. It's hard to work on those hillsides, but that gives you more sun exposure. So it's better for the grapes. And it gives you a specific type of taste, which is what defines Sancerre. So if the people tonight, they can taste the wine side by side, you know, both Petit Bourgeois and Sancerre Les Baronnes, they are made with the same grape, 100% Sauvignon Blanc. And they are also made by the same producer, which is Henri Bourgeois, and we saw the winemaker, Jean-Christophe Bourgeois. and it's the same basically attention to details, and we work very hard on the Petit Bourgeois, but also on Les Barons. The winemaking is relatively the same. So what really transcends those wine, it's again this combination of soils, climate, microclimate, exposure, and there is a word in French for that, and it's called terroir. Terroir, a very French word, but it's terroir. So gonna go back to the. Oh, I'm sorry, I cannot go back to the to my slide. Not sure why, but terroir, very French word, and it's all about the soils, the different types of soils.
Absolutely.
So in Sancerre, there are 3 families of soils. So the one you find the most, limestone. But there's also something very unique. I'm sorry, go ahead, Charlotte.
French word for limestone. The French word for limestone.
Oh, sorry. Calcaire.
Calcaire.
Calcaire. Which is basically chalk. Which we call craie in French. Craie. So limestone there's a lot of limestone in Sancerre, but there's a lot of limestone in Texas too, and they don't make Sancerre, so
that's valid.
It's just the soil, it's not just the soil. So that's a combination of soil. So here there's another type of soil which, if you look closely, it's actually a fossil.
Very porous.
A former ocean. 160 million years ago, all of Sancerre was covered by a tropical ocean during the Jurassic time. And today, the vineyards, they grow on a former ocean bed, so basically on oyster shells, but fossilized. So that's 2, but there's a third one which is kind of famous, which is called silex, and it's French for flint. And we're gonna try to do it with the camera, but I don't know if you can hear or see.
I can smell it.
You could smell it. There should be some sparkles, but it's silex. I can actually smell it. It smells like gunflint. So another type of soil you find in Sancerre. So of course you can find flint and silex in different part of France or in also in the US, but the 3 together, it's only Sancerre. It's only this small spot in the center of France. And that's remarkable, that's unique, and that's why also the wine are so unique. So in terms of, no, go ahead, sorry.
We're trying to, one specific, because you make quite a few Sancerres. We're trying to Le Baron. Maybe you could speak to that, and then also let us know the different wine seeds you have, because it's fascinating to me that you're able to have, I don't know how many, 10 different Sancerres, probably more than that. And they're all so different.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they are, and it's the blessing we have in Sancerre, because when you think about it, Charlotte, Jessica, and Mike, you are wine professionals, and so you know very well that Sauvignon Blanc is a very popular category, but it's also grown everywhere in the world.
Well, I think that's something we can talk about, because for a lot of Americans and anybody for that matter that drinks wine, we hear the word terroir, or we hear about soil, minerality. These terms are bandied about a lot, especially in wine reviews and in things that people are encountering online. And if you could extrapolate a little bit on that as far as, especially for the Barons, what are we actually getting from
Yes.
that soil when we put our nose in it?
Yes.
And then what do we feel on the palate? Because that's really important to our understanding of what this thing of terroir means, because it is a kind of a nebulous term to a lot of Americans.
It is.
A lot of other French phrases, I might add, which don't really have a direct translation. But that's what I really appreciate about learning about the soils, is that when we use these terms, what do they really mean to what we smell and what we taste, and then what we decide to eat with this wine. So maybe talk about Barons and maybe even backtrack to Petit Bourgeois, and maybe there's some soil sources for that are unique to that particular wine that make it more than just a baby Sancerre, or
definitely
a baby wine, so to speak.
Definitely. So Petit Bourgeois is mostly grown on clay and limestone soils, which are very common to the Loire Valley. And to your point, terroir, minerality, it's not very tangible. It's hard to figure it out. So a classic Sancerre, and Les Baronnes is a classic style of Sancerre. You should always look for two different things. Number one, the aromatics from the Sauvignon Blanc. So usually, there are different families of aromatics, but usually in a Sancerre you should look for citrus notes, but also flowers and stone fruit. So there's a nice combination here, but these are think about honeydew, think about peach, think about grapefruit. Like most people can recognize those kind of aromatics. But the beauty of Sancerre, it does not stop here. You should also get what in French we call minerality, which is actually anything but the fruit. It should smell a little bit like gunflint, like chalkiness, like brininess, like when you smell an oyster. It should smell like the ocean a little bit. So there's different layers of minerality, and depending of the grapes and the region. If we were in Alsace, people would probably tell you should look for petrol nuts, those kind of mineral nuts as well. But you are in Sancerre, look for fruit and minerality. Those plenty kind of gunpowder type of notes, if it makes any sense.
Great description.
Yeah, we've hit on the last few weeks, what grows together goes together and things like that. And when I drink this Sancerre, I absolutely immediately think of oysters, which were very much, in the Gulf Coast, certainly on the Gulf of Mexico. We have amazing oysters here. I would lean into some Blue Point oysters or some other. I feel, I'm all about let's fire up the grill and grill some oysters with this. That definitely comes forward with me, but like seafood, shrimp, any kind of those seafood dishes, certainly could lean into a salmon perhaps, and a few other things, but I love this with oysters.
No, but definitely you're spot on. And again, 160 million years ago, Sancerre looked very much like Pensacola, like the Gulf of Mexico. It was a tropical ocean. So this definitely, it makes sense. The vineyard, they grow on oyster shells. So it's a great analogy and pairing. Then I would say the differences between something like Petit Bourgeois and Sancerre and the Baronne, it's about you are able to find fruit and a little bit of minerality in Petit Bourgeois as well. But I would say it's not as refined. The I was trying to come up with an example of that earlier, thinking about tonight, and the wines we were going to taste. And to me, it's like if we, it's like going to a concert, you're going to a great concert, I don't know, U2 or the Rolling Stone or anybody, great band, fantastic band. But there's a difference if you sit front row or right, all the way up in the stadium. You're still going to have good time. You're still going to listen and hear the music, but not as well defined as is if you are like the VIP section and you're right in front of the musician.
Or Foreigner before and now with the new lead singers. It's the same but different. Still really good, but not quite the oomph that the original had. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So it's a bit the same thing with Petit Bourgeois. It's less expensive. It's a less expensive ticket to the Loire Valley, but you're more on the back seat. Les Barons, you're in the VIP section of the Loire Valley. You have the fruit, the minerality, very well defined. And to get back to your point, Charlotte, we also produce a dozen of our single vineyard Sancerre, and that is when you get the backstage pass, all access, These are the big boys, and you're going to get more. You're going to get more minerality. You're going to get more definition of the fruit, the minerality, but also longer lasting tasting, but also emotion, because that's the beauty thing about what we do. We are also building memories, sensorial memories, and it's definitely something you can build by going through different types of Sancerre, different types of single vineyards, and Charlotte, we produce quite a few. Huh?
I've been in the tasting room a couple of times, I will say. And I think it's awesome because you start out with, Ziggy would start me out with the red, the one red. Yes. I don't know if you make any more red, but the one red, you'd start out with the red and then just go to the whites because that's what Sancerre is all about. And gosh, Montblanc, La Demoiselle. There's numerous wines that you can try. And I'm not sure how many come into the United States, but quite a few, I would imagine.
Quite a few, yes, quite a few. I know Michael is a great fan of Les Monts-d'Année. He's a great fan. But,
I think we have at least 5. Let me see here. I think we have Monts-d'Année, Baron, Jadis. I don't know if I'm missing one there, but yeah, 4, and then also, which is maybe not.
You have the red as well. You have the Sancerre Rouge. You have the red Sancerre, so Pinot Noir.
Yes. And a rosé of Pinot Noir.
I was going to ask about that. I'm very curious about.
Yeah, and also some Puy Fumé, which is a little bit different, and that's a separate maybe discussion, but because the winemaking will be a little bit different there too. I was going to ask as well. A lot of people. We were talking about food pairings for these wines, but also the great thing about Sancerre and the great thing about a lot of Loire Valley wines, especially the whites, you could just open this up on the patio.
Very much so.
You don't need to necessarily be eating anything with Sauvignon Blanc wines, but certainly with Sancerre or with Petit Bourgeois, you don't necessarily need to be eating, which is kind of fun, especially for hot weather like Florida. If you want to just open up a bottle, it's not oaky, it's not oaked. And nor is it like Chardonnay where it's maybe a little more fleshier or riper. You have a little get together with people, which some people are doing, some people aren't. Be safe. But when you open up a great Sauvignon Blanc, like something from Sancerre or something from this part of the Loire, you can just have a glass or two and, maybe a snack or no snack, which is great. It's not fatiguing to the palate. It's a really well-balanced experience and makes it really fun for people to experience a white wine for a wide swath of people without needing to necessarily think about what food are we having or what does somebody like or what does somebody not like. I think if somebody's not there, I don't think they're going to be very disappointed with your choice of wine at all. Even if they are like a Chardonnay drinker, Sancerre is going to go over, I think, really well for anybody that opens up a bottle of wine. So definitely something I've been thinking about too for this wine as I've been sipping it is we can have it anytime. Yes. Even of the day. I know some people aren't working all day long these days. Lunch is not out of the question here, okay? You may not all be wine salespeople or whatnot, but you can have a glass of Sancerre at 11 a.m. It's okay. I give you permission during COVID-19 to have Sancerre at 11 a.m. You have my blessing. You can do it. It's okay.
You're a good man, Michel. You're a good man. I approve this message, Michel.
It really does bring up a good point.
That does bring up a good point in that we do have a lot of people that are just super red drinkers. And so tell us about the red that Henri Bourgeois does, because we've had that in stock before and we don't always carry it, but it's definitely something that we can get. And some people are just red drinkers, regardless of if it's the COVID days, then we're going to just sit around and drink white wine.
Definitely. So Sancerre, most of the production is white wine. We've made 100% with Sauvignon Blanc. But all the producers in Sancerre also produce red and rosé Sancerre, and they are made 100% with Pinot Noir. So outside of Burgundy, the Loire Valley, and specifically the center part of the Loire Valley where Sancerre is located, is the go-to region for Pinot Noir. So there's about 80% of Sancerre is white Sauvignon Blanc, 20% red and rosé. So there's only so much produced. And also, it's a very popular wine in France. It's the biggest market for red Sancerre. It's Paris. It's a classic red wine for the restaurant in Paris.
Yeah. You don't see Sancerre Rouge or Rosé a little more, but not so much. And it's the whites that you see here.
Yes, so it's here in the US, it's changing a bit. But historically, most of the red Sancerre and the rosé Sancerre, they did not leave France. They were drunk in France again because especially the reds, it's the closest thing you're gonna get to Burgundy, but for half the price. So but it's growing. So in terms of style, you are definitely on the French style of Pinot Noir, so light to medium in body, a bright fruit, some minerality also, extremely, extremely versatile with food, and it's a classic spring, summertime type of red. And I hear it's spring and summertime all the time in Florida. So what are the odds? What are the odds?
It's gorgeous here.
It is right now.
And I'm just sipping the Sancerre, thinking about being on the front of somebody else's boat with my friends, enjoying a beautiful afternoon. And you're so right, Michael, to speak to that it doesn't necessarily need food to go with it, and it's just like bright, crisp, and just delicious and light and refreshing. I could absolutely see this, not being paired with anything or a meal and just having, I want to day drink and be on a boat and have a glass of wine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's absolutely delicious.
So Laurent, it's been so great for you to spend your time with us. We're actually gone longer than we've gone on any of our
this is
virtual wine tastings
amazing experience.
And we really appreciate your time, and it's been awesome. So
thank you so much. Thank you, Michel.
Vive la France.
Vive la France. Merci. Merci.
I hope to see you in Pensacola and not too much longer. Hopefully everything's going well with you in Atlanta. And thank you again. I mean, I think it took it up a little notch, and we had some great presentations.
We haven't really spoken to the comments, but we've gotten a lot of wonderful comments from all of our viewers, from Carol, from Julie, from everyone, just saying like, this is so educational, and this is such a notch up of just learning from the producers, some interesting information. And I think that's really where the dynamic is taking us now with these virtual wine tastings, giving us the opportunity to give a wealth of knowledge that, I mean, Charlotte's very knowledgeable, much more than I, but your knowledge is incredible to hear it direct from the source. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Vive les États-Unis. And, it's so great to see you guys, to see your face, your beautiful smiles. And I miss you guys.
Same. I know you can't wait to see you.
My last, yes, we'll see you, and hopefully, maybe in a few months we can do New Zealand, and taste some Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Noir from Marlborough.
Absolutely.
But until then, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and stay safe.
À tout à l'heure.
À tout à l'heure. Au revoir. Au revoir, Michel.
Oh, no.